Hello again. Welcome back to the channel Corruption Incorporated. I'm your host, Inequality. I want to do a two-part video today because I have something important I want to talk about, and well, I consider all of this to be important, but this is a special one because today, the day on which I'm posting this, is March 19th, 2025, and it was 16 years ago today. Crazy as it sounds, something happened to me. It was one of the more important experiences of my life. Couldn't really explain it to anyone. It sounds crazy no matter how I describe it. I've never really talked to anyone about it, exactly what happened, and I probably never will. But I had a premonition that this would happen. Without knowing any of the details, I felt this, that something was coming and I would be tasked with facing it. And for 10 years, exactly to the day, I ran from this. It was only on March 19th, 2019, 6 years ago today, that I turned and faced it and said, all right, because I realized that all the running had done no good. It had only brought me to exactly where I didn't want to be. And many times over these years that I've been fighting back, if you're just joining us, the purpose of this channel and of what I'm doing, this campaign against corruption in the United States and in the world at large, we're trying to have a dialogue here with the American public and with the world public about what's going on in modern human society. I'm also trying from my personal experience, I'm endeavoring to share how I have learned that one does not have to be an attorney to fight back on the modern battlefield, which is a courtroom. Yes, I know that there are still physical conflicts going on, and I hope with all my heart that that stops soon. It's barbaric to take arms against each other. It's barbaric to become a source of violence. It's barbaric to prey upon the weak and the poor. And that is what I have discovered is happening a lot of the time now with the American corporation, especially the American tech company, is seemingly being run by people who operate out of a philosophy that others are something to be cheated, tricked, used, taken advantage of for profit. And I have discovered that it is possible for one person to make a difference. I have made a difference in the lives of tens of thousands of people. I can never officially talk about that, and I can never officially take credit for it. The only reason I walk right up to the line of my word that was given years ago is because I know I have it on good authority that what I asked to have stop happening is still happening. And so 6 years ago today, I turned and faced it, and I had become aware that a company that I was doing business with was stealing from a large population of people, and I started collecting evidence. And I decided I was going to have to fight them because there was no point. They were destroying people's lives. I was walking down the street in Los Angeles and I was seeing people in their cars with an Uber sticker in the window. Yeah. And they were with the baseball cap over their eyes or the arm over their eyes, asleep in their cars, nowhere else to go, chained to this machine because the company was taking more and more and more and more from the fares. I personally collected evidence and discovered that Uber was taking sometimes upwards of 50%. I even once caught them taking 100% of a fare from a ride and cooking the books in their application to hide the theft, to make it look like it had gone out with the last payment. These were people that had decided to strike out on their own, work for themselves, run a little business, and their lives were being run into the ground by the greed of a small number of people. Over the years, I have told my close friends who have had my back through this time. I've been on this battlefield now for about 7.5 years. I've told my friends that this has felt very much like fighting a Balrog. If you're unaware what that is, if you're unaware of the story of the Lord of the Rings, it is described as a demon from an ancient world, from the land of Morgoth. And the reason, and the way I describe it, the reason that I use this image is because I feel very much like what I've been up against is not a single corporation. It's not Uber Technologies is the nexus of all darkness in our world. It's not a group of people or an individual. It is an idea. It's not a physical opponent. That's why it's so difficult and so dangerous to fight. It's the idea that might equals right. I'm bigger than you, so I'm right no matter what. I have more money than you, so I'm right no matter what. It's utterly barbaric. That is the philosophy that governed life on this planet for hundreds of millions of years. It is dinosaur logic. It does not belong in the United States of America, because here we have inverted this idea. Here, right equals might. That is in essence, what is coming under fire right now, what is being threatened. The rule of law itself is endangered right now. This is a very, very challenging time in which we're living, through which we're living. And if you don't know the story, a wizard who can take any form, and it doesn't have to be a man. A wizard faced this thing in the story, and they were fleeing through this dark place, trying to sneak towards the destination to destroy this ring of power. They can only be destroyed in one place. And the wizard turned and faced this thing. He had faced it once already. It's not in the films, but in the book. They meet each other on either side of a door. And all these shadowy creatures that are chasing them with lethal intent. Like the crowd parts in this thing that is enveloped in shadow. Because as I've discovered, as I've said in recent episodes, I found out that the lawyers representing Coinbase against me prefer to be in shadow to some extent. They're not on Google Maps. They have a law firm office in New York and in Norfolk, Virginia, and they're not on Google Maps. And that really set me off. And that is why I started to talk about this and to name names here, because that's unacceptable. That means that someone who works there, someone in charge at that business, gets the gist of what I'm saying and doesn't care. That's what that means to me. That's my opinion. I'm allowed to say that. I can scream that from the top of every mountain. I'm entitled to my opinion here. It's an unalienable right as a citizen of this country. The wizard meets this thing on either side of the door. He's tried to put a spell on the door to keep it closed. All you see in the film is after this happens. I would speculate that perhaps they at least had a discussion about this, or maybe even tried to film it. It didn't translate well on film. Many things don't. And all you see is afterwards. He comes down the stairs in the films and says, "Lead them on, Aragorn." But he looks like he's been through something, and he has, because in the book what happens is he feels this thing put a counter spell to his spell, and it is so powerful. It takes a lot of energy out of him. I get goosebumps almost every time I talk about this. It's a very emotional experience for me now, and has been for years watching this scene in the film, because I know what it feels like to fight something like that. I really do. I slept for almost 12 hours on Sunday, this past Sunday, and then I took another 3-hour nap in the early evening. It's quite late now, but I've already been to sleep this evening. It's exhausting. But he doesn't even know exactly what it is, the wizard. I think it's the elf Legolas, who's an immortal being, has been alive for a very long time. And he knows what it is. And when he says, "Oh, it's Balrog has come," the wizard says, he says, "and I was already weary. I was already tired, and I have to face this thing." They come to this very narrow bridge with no railings, and he turns and faces it. And in the book, he only says, "You cannot pass." I think it was a wise choice that they made to say, "You shall not pass" in the film, but in the book, it's "You cannot pass." And he stands there, and he faces this thing, and all he fights it with light. And in the book, he actually strikes the bridge with his staff, and that's what makes it break and fall, if I'm remembering correctly. I actually have a copy of it here, but it's not old enough that I'm allowed to read from this. It's not in the public domain yet. I've been remembering films from the past in these last few days and thinking about how precious every moment is. I know that precious is a loaded term in this story and of this story, but it's not inherently a bad term. And even the way old paper smells is such a beautiful thing. And so much, I think, as we become revolutionaries in our own right, however unfortunate it might be, if and when that has to happen, we begin to appreciate every little thing, every pleasant thing, every peaceful thing is so wonderful for those who have faced great adversity. I also am remembering today, I mentioned on the last episode, I mentioned the character Optimus Prime from Transformers, and I want to share with you today, I worked in Hollywood, and Optimus Prime's great adversary, Megatron, I actually have a piece of Megatron right here. This was actually a piece of the set of Transformers 3, Dark of the Moon, in which, well, I don't want to give anything away, but things don't go very well for this character Megatron in that film, and this was part of, he'd already been beaten badly in the previous film, and usually the good guys win in those films, in that story. And he was like an old rusted truck in the third film, and this was a present because I worked on a film that was on the same set, same location as one of the sets of that film, and this was given to me, and I affectionately call it my sword. It's just a straight crowbar, but it weighs about, probably weighs about 20 to 25 pounds. It's not light at all. But I mentioned that, I think it was in the second film, Optimus wound up in a difficult situation, and he said, I'll take you all on. So this episode is about the American monster. I want to talk about monsters. And I remember now a scene from the fourth of the Transformers films, which is called Age of Extinction. And the situation is not good. They're in some trouble. There's a lot of adversity that they're facing, and Optimus says it's time for reinforcements, and they have some very old members of their alien species that were locked up, and he lets them out. And I remember this clearly because I love this scene. I mean, it's my favorite scene in that film, and he has them out in like a field, and he's got a sword. And he comes, and the actor Peter Cullen, up until the film Transformers 1, did the voice for Optimus, and he says, he comes up to them, and they're much bigger than him. He's a very big alien robot, but they're very big. And one of them, actually, the big ones that he has found, they're like ancient, and he calls them legendary warriors. They turn into dinosaurs. And he goes up and he says, legendary warriors, the powers that created us now want us all extinguished. We must join forces or else forever be their slaves. So today you stand with us, or you stand against me. The reason I'm telling you this is it's the same idea. It's the same idea as standing against that Balrog on that bridge. You're going down. Go back to the shadow. Either you join us now, or you are not getting to these gentle creatures, these peace-loving folk that I love and care for. If you're going down, even if I'm going down with you. And in the film that I just quoted from, one of them that turns into a Tyrannosaurus Rex is not okay with this and actually fights him, and he messes it up. He like, even though he's a lot smaller than it, he's trying to reason with it even as he's battling it. He says, like, only together will we survive. Let me lead you. And then it transforms, and it's like breathing fire, and he's there with his shield, and he says, come on! And it charges at him, and he knocks it out in one hit with his shield. He says, we're giving you freedom, and he knocks it clean off its feet and breaks its jaw. And then he goes up to it, and I don't know, I'm not really cool with this part because it's a little bit too much to say to any living thing. But he puts the sword against it and says, you defend my family or die. It's not fun to feel called into this kind of service. I mean, I said in the last episode, like, why shouldn't I enjoy my work? I'm trying to enjoy it. I'm trying to have a good time here. I learned in theater school that enjoyment is contagious. That's why it's important when we're performing. The hardest part of performing is trusting it, that we've done all this work, we've put our whole hearts into this, and we have to let go and live it. And then something might go wrong in a rehearsal or a film, and cut, do it again. You've got to forget and do it again. It's very difficult. It's a supreme art form on this planet, in my opinion. It's so close to life itself and reproducing life itself. But the people who write stories like this get it. And people in history have gotten it. The lawyers that I'm facing, the lawyers representing Coinbase and Compass Realty and Coldwell Banker Realty that I'm fighting right now, they don't get it. They don't get that generations of people like them taking money from companies that are behaving in illicit ways or defending people like this has led us to this dark hour. They don't understand that. I imagine, it's my opinion, that in their minds they say, well, we're just doing our jobs. We're just doing our jobs. Drug dealers could say the same thing. Sex traffickers could say the same thing. And what do you think? Oh, they don't have an office? Probably some of them do. Even if the office is in someone's apartment or living room, that's where they work. They work out of there. They're just doing their jobs, but they're hurting a lot of people. Society frowns on such behavior. I'm saying now, either you stand with us who promote peace, who want to lift up the weak and the poor, or you stand against me. Because this is going to fix it. If enough people realize that this is what it takes, that this is what created the United States of America, is enough of us got together and said, what's happening here, what the English king is doing to us is wrong. We can do better. We can have a government that is us. And any person who feels called to lead can say, I think I can help. And they put in their service and they go. Politics in this country was never meant to be a path to fame and wealth and success and notoriety. It was never meant to be that. It was meant to be government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And what is happening now is really an extreme perversion of that. And it is so bad that even someone who is well educated, like I am, who's inching closer to having a book ready to publish, can be so beset with corruption that it's just a struggle just to survive. The cost of living is going up. The cost of living has been going up. But the income is not increasing at a commensurate rate. And now we've got lawyers that are, I allege, actively seeking to avoid public scrutiny and raking in cash from companies that are taking it from people who are trying to invest for the first time, in the case of Coinbase, or in the case of the real estate companies I'm fighting. They're trying to leave 2 million people in one of our 50 states. They set a precedent of 2 million people in that state approximately who rent their homes, have no protection from the law for things like burglary and trespassing. That a real estate agent can come on your property if you rent, and they can light your house on fire, and they owe no responsibility to exercise reasonable care. It's absurd. They're promoting a society with that kind of defense, that kind of argument. They are promoting a society that caters to the wealthy more than those who have less. Almost fell. I But that is not American. That's not what America is. We're equal here. So I think I'm going to break now, and we're going to do the second part of this. Yeah, oh wow, 25 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to break now. We're going to do a part 2, and I'm going to read to you from some older works from the 19th century, very well-known pieces of literature that are in the public domain. And I'm going to show you that even when this country was less than 100 years old, there were people here who got it. They got it. They understood what I'm talking about here. And I'm going to show you that what our idea of success is a perversion of what the idea of success originally was intended to be here. That those who are sitting on mountains of money, that it would take them more than one lifetime to spend, are not successful. They're monsters. And until we start to treat them as monsters, regard them as monsters, not something to be approached at with violence ever, but until we start to move away from the idea that one person having incomprehensible wealth, while others can barely feed their children or feed themselves or keep a roof over their heads, that is not success for a society. That's failure. Until that idea returns to what the original idea here was, our society will continue to fall. In one of my earliest episodes, in fact, the first thing I filmed, which was almost 2 years ago now, I talked about the etymology of the word radical. And I said that the idea of what is radical today has also been perverted, has also been mutated. Because the word radical comes from a Latin word that means root. In a corrupt time, to get back to the root of things is a good thing. In a time like this, to be called a radical ought to be seen as a compliment, because radical ideas are what created our country. I mean, the ideas in Scripture that we are to love our neighbors as ourselves and things like that, and not treat other people in ways we wouldn't want to be treated. You wouldn't want me stealing from you, cheating you. These are older than the United States. So, and they're, and yet they had been perverted, and what the English king was doing to the colonists was wrong. They felt it was wrong. They felt they could do better. So even that was a radical idea. Equality as a foundation for a society. Even the idea of hierarchy, I mean, this is more philosophical. I'll talk about this in the future, I imagine, I'm sure. Even the idea of being equal. Even the idea that there is a hierarchy in nature is just something that exists in the realm of human thought. Before we were here to think thoughts like better or worse or good or evil, all these dualistic concepts, the universe was just doing what it does. This planet was just spinning and revolving around the sun. And throughout history, people who have spoken the truth to power, like Galileo Galilei, I don't think that the sun is revolving around the earth. Well, basically locked him in his house for the rest of his life for saying that. Because they didn't like that idea. No, they couldn't face it. We're too important. It's exactly what I'm saying to these lawyers. You're so important. Your client is going to pay, Coinbase is going to pay to an arbitrator. It used to be like $550 an hour. I think they've done something about that now. It seems like it's now $300 an hour. But the man is, or woman, we don't know who it's going to be yet, is going to work at least 10 hours. It's going to be at least another 6 months until this is over. They're going to pay more than it would have taken to settle this just to an arbitrator, not even considering what they're paying to their lawyers. They might have already paid more than it would have taken originally to settle this. And why are they doing that? My opinion is pride. Pride and greed, the vicious combination of those things. Oh, this person who's saying we stole from him, oh, well, we're not going to give you a penny. How dare you? And we're going to threaten you with coming after you for our legal fees if you don't drop this. We are entitled to steal from you. Who do you think you are standing up to us? That's the Balrog. That's the idea. I have more money than you. We have more money than you. We can do what we want. That is about as anti-American as it gets without violence. So we're going to hear from Herman Melville in a couple of minutes. We're going to do a part 2 for this. And we're going to hear from Walt Whitman. I'm going to stop this now because like last time I said, call me Optimus Prime, I'll take you all on. This time I'll say, call me Captain America, because I can do this all day. There are no scripts here. I think I said that on the first episode. Anyway, I usually valedict with peace and love to you all. If you've watched all this, blessings unto you. I hope this is entertaining. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm sleeping better now that I'm doing this. Being more outgoing, and I'm finding that more and more people, especially young people, college-age people, get it. They get it. And they're ready to stand together. And that's what I'm saying to these attorneys. Like, you're on the wrong side of the law and the wrong side of history, and this is not good for you. I don't think you guys understand. As I'll say it here and now, the conditions are fairly ripe right now for a second American Revolution. And with all my heart, I hope and am endeavoring to help usher in a version of that that does not involve violence, that does not involve celebrating an assassin like a lot of people are right now. This year's most famous criminal with his green cable knit sweater and his sockless loafers. You know exactly who I'm talking about. I mentioned his name, I think, once before. I don't want to mention his name. I don't want to draw any attention to him. I don't want to promote him or add to his notoriety in any way. Should be locked up for the rest of his life. That is not the way. That is not how we do things here. You would never want someone doing that to you. To do that to someone else is fundamentally anti-American and immoral. If we keep going down that road, there's no telling who's going to be targeted next for the sins of a whole system. So we'll see you here very briefly. We're going to keep going, and we're going to share some words from some bright lights in our history. See you soon.